Hey guys, my name is Matsumio, and recently a lot of people have been asking the question, why is Jager getting nerfed in Rainbow Six Siege? Ubisoft made the announcement that they were going to be making him a 2-speed, 2-armored operator, and to no one's surprise, it didn't really go all that well amongst the community. He's been 3-speed forever. This is going to be a pretty big departure from his normal playstyle, and so obviously a lot of players aren't really too thrilled by this change. But today, we now know why Ubisoft is doing this. They just released the pick rate and win rate of all the operators for offense and defense on PC, and you'll notice that Jager is literally off the charts. This man appears to have what looks like a 95% pick rate and above average win rate, which obviously is something that needs to be addressed. Now, I will agree with a lot of people that I am personally not thrilled by the idea of having him become a 2-armor, 2-speed operator. I think that they should probably have tackled this some other way, but I can also see and understand their justification for why they're trying to take such dramatic steps to try to reduce his influence in Rainbow Six Siege. We should never have an operator that has this high of a win rate and pick rate for this long. Like, clearly this is an issue that they need to address, especially considering that they already introduced an operator in the form of Womai, which you'll notice is a fairly well-balanced operator. Like, they did a pretty good job with him, at least stats-wise. He's right where he should be on defense. And so all in all, I'm really curious to see how all this is going to play out. The funny thing about it, which maybe isn't going to be all that funny for Jager mains out there, is that apparently this may not be the final step that they take to try to nerf him. They say that there could be more things on the table that they try to introduce to bring him down a little bit more, and so don't be surprised if this is not the final step to try to bring him in line with all of the other characters in the game. Now, that isn't the only thing that we learned from this chart. You'll notice that Goyo's win rate and pick rate isn't anything to write home about. He's actually someone, at least stat-wise, someone that you would find fairly underwhelming and probably could use some improving. But he is not getting improving, he's actually getting nerfed from basically every direction. Not only is Ubisoft reducing the damage of his shotty significantly, but they're also going to be reducing the amount of shields that he has access to from 3 down to 2. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, why in the world is this happening? Clearly, he needs probably a bonus, not a nerf across the board. What is Ubisoft's justification for doing so? Well, it really just comes down to Pro League. Ubisoft really doesn't usually take Pro League this much into consideration, but I think this is one of the first times that they've really gone out of their way to accommodate for that higher level of play. They're going to be removing his shield because at that competitive level, right now, the meta right now is to constantly utility dump. So you have Goyo on your team, you have Jager, you've got all of these different gadgets that you have to go through on offense, and there's just so many of them that you run out of utility on the offensive side, and it just becomes something that is insurmountable. And so because of this, Goyo at that higher tier is actually probably a bit too strong. This is actually one of the reasons why Castle hasn't seen many changes lately. Over the years, players have been hoping that Castle would get some significant buffs or at least a basic rework, but Ubisoft has been reluctant to do so because at this higher level, he's actually a well-balanced operator. Now, I know that not everyone is going to be thrilled by this news because they would rather the game be balanced around the vast majority of the player base, but I do understand where Ubisoft is coming from, especially considering that he already has a low win rate and pick rates. Yes, this is going to nerf him even more. It's going to be dropping significantly. I think that this is more of an indication that Goyo needs a rework and that this is going to essentially be a band-aid fix. For now, yes, this isn't really all that great of a solution, but hopefully this will indicate to them that they need to make some further steps to get into the core of why he is so powerful at that higher level and try to make some adjustments so that he actually works in the pro scene and also for everyone else. That might be a difficult task for them to actually achieve, but I think that that's what these stats and what these changes are kind of indicating. But we are going to have to wait and see what they come up with. Another thing I found really interesting about these charts is that it looks like the recent nerfs to Lesion had the desired effects. Before the update, I thought that Lesion was easily one of the strongest operators in the game. His ability to gather information with his gadget slowed down the progress of offense, coupled with a really powerful weapon as well. Like, he was basically the perfect operator, especially if you were solo queuing and you did not want to rely on your teammates for callouts. And so it's great to see that those changes seem to have had the desired effect. expect. He is still very powerful, like his win rate and pick rate is above average, but it's in a much more balanced state, an acceptable state than it was before. I don't think that they're probably going to make any big changes to him in the future. They're probably going to monitor him for the next couple of months before they kind of proceed, but I thought that that was fantastic news. One thing that I thought was great to see is that Nook seems to be in a much better place. Who would have thought increasing the damage of her primary weapon so that it actually takes people out somewhat reliably would have been all you needed to make her a fun operator. Now, she still doesn't have a great pick rate, but I think that's just mainly because, by and large, Nook is not the easiest character to play as. Nook requires a different playstyle. You have to move around the map slowly, methodically, and dare I say stealthily, and that isn't going to appeal to everyone. But for the people that are using her, they're finally being rewarded, which I think is fantastic. And so while they may have to make some more improvements to make her a little bit more appealing, I think that that slight adjustment to her damage was exactly what she needed. Now, one thing that you may have noticed in these charts is that for some reason, Blitz's win rate has skyrocketed. It went from below average to being one of the highest win rates in the game, and I have literally no idea why this is. It could be for a lot of reasons. Maybe it's because Legion's pick rate has dropped substantially. Legion is one of the better counters to Blitz because obviously you can't sprint while he's gooed, and so he's not able to close the gap, which is really the only way you want to be able to play as Blitz, so that might be one reason why. But other than that, I have no idea why this happened. This simply just could be happenstance. Ubisoft has come out and said that every once in a while, operators will randomly all of a sudden skyrocket up or down in their performance, and they have no idea why. The operators that counter them didn't see any nerfs. They themselves didn't get any buffs or changes, but for some reason, people start to gravitate or do really well with them in one season, and that might be happening here. The one thing that I was not surprised by, though, is the performance of both Jana and Oryx. Oryx sounds awesome on paper. He seems like he'd be the ultimate roamer, being able to literally charge through walls to catch people by surprise. His ability to sprint around the map at speeds that no one else can achieve. He can jump through hatches, which we've never seen before, allowing him to get off amazing flanks. Like, he just appears like he would be the best roamer in Siege, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. I think that there's so many things holding him back right now. Yeah, it's awesome that he can do all of those things, but because he has to go through such a lengthy animation just like Amaru does, it just leaves him vulnerable half the time, and the other team is able to essentially just get a free takedown against him. On top of that, he has a pretty lackluster weapon. Who would have thought if that thing doesn't have access to an ACOG, its low damage isn't really going to get the job done half the time. And so I'm crossing my fingers that they're going to be able to improve him in the near future. Reduce that animation time. I understand that it can't be instant, because if he charges through a wall and takes everyone out on the opposite end, that's probably a bit too strong. You need to allow offense to be able to react to what's happening around them, but at the same time, there are so many things that are holding him back, and so I'm hopeful that they're going to be able to address that. As for Jana, though, I think that they did an amazing job with her. She is exactly where she needs to be as a new operator. I will admit that when she first released, I thought having infinite drones might be a bit too game-changing, but clearly that's not the case. They offset her with having decent weapons, nothing really to write home about. They're not the worst in the game, but definitely by no means the best, and her secondary gadget complements her as well. And so if they were able to achieve more operators like her every single time they came out, Ubisoft would be doing a fantastic job. The final thing I wanted to discuss today has to deal with Ying. Ying got a pretty big buff last update. They made some great quality of life improvements to her gadget. They just simply made it more reliable, and so I assumed that this meant more people would have played as her. But funnily enough, her actual pick rate went down this season. And so if you're wondering why she's getting an upgrade so soon, it's because of this reason. I'm sure there's a lot of other things at play for why people don't like to use Ying all that often. She isn't the easiest operator to play as. She requires a lot of skill and finesse. You need to know how to use her Candelas properly to get the most out of it. But I think Ubisoft is trying to nudge people in the direction, be like, hey, one more Candela and 2 smokes. This is really powerful. Please start to use this operator a bit more. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. There is a lot of great information in these charts. We didn't even cover all of them. For example, Twitch isn't played as often. You may have noticed, I've definitely seen this in my games. No one is really relying on Twitch as much as they used to. I'm really glad that Ubisoft is so transparent and gives away this information because it gives us a glimpse into the reasons why they're making the changes that they are. But yeah, guys, until next time, have a good one and take it easy.